Well, the ward, actually, there was a ward 9. I've not been to. I didn't think I went to ward 9 again, which is a small ward. And Dr. K.K. Datey used to do his rounds at that time when I was a registrar. And what a very interesting thing was that he was cardiologist, but he had to ask a general medical question to the batches that I was into, my batch who were working under me. And so you have to ask only one question: what is the course of the seventh cranial nerve? And everyone used to kind of read thoroughly, kind of memorize it 100 times. I made them memorize 100 times. But as soon as they come near Dr. Dutt, they froze. They forgot everything. So they were very nervous about him because he's a very strict person, and he used to always have a bow tie and a suit. And I don't remember seeing him in different suit anytime, always a new suit. So he was a very imposing figure, short guy, but very imposing figure. So they all used to forget about it. So he used to give everybody 0. This was 0 out of 50. And the other 50 were for instruments. And I was, as a registrar, used to give them. So what I used to do was to make sure nobody failed just because they could not answer his question. I used to give them 50 out of 50. So I used to show them the instrument gave 50 out of 50. And so they used to pass. And Dr. Datey never used to look at how much score I gave. He just looked at the bottom line. So, okay, he just signed something. He thought they had failed and he would be, but he didn't realize that I had passed them already. I was caught once there because, at the end, because said somehow that he looked at the score and said, how come I'm giving everyone 0 and you are giving 50 to them? And I said, no, they're very good. I mean, I saw them, they're very good, and they just forget things in front of you. And he just called one of them and said, what instrument Dr. Nanda showed you? And some other, I think I used to show them just Flatus tube so everybody can see Flatus tube. And so as to say, they're correct, Flatus 50-50. So he said Flatus tube. And this is the first time I've seen the very strict Datey just smile, he laughed. But somehow he didn't fail that batch and pass that batch also. So that was one interesting story I had about Dr. K.K. Datey. The one other interesting story was that when we published our paper in the New England Journal of Medicine, Dr. Datey had many degrees. So, in those days, even when you do the research, the first name you always used to give to your mentor, to your honor, to your mentor. So I put down Dr. K.K. Datey and Nanda. And once the paper was published in New England Journal of Medicine, I was very proud, and I showed it to my mother, who knew some English, did not know too much English, but enough to look at the heading, and it was Dr. K.K. Datey, and he had many degrees, and then there was my name. So he said, well, what are you very proud about this whole thing? As a matter of fact, if you look at it carefully, you look like one of the degrees of Dr. Datey only. So don't just be brag and don't be very proud of this. So I was really deflated. But it did look like I was one of the degrees of Dr. Datey because it was said Dr. K.K. Datey, the MD, FRCP, Edinburgh, London, etc. So DCH, I don't know what other degrees he had, DTM&H, something from United States. And then it was, and Dr. Nanda. But that paper was a very good paper. And it had also an editorial from New England Journal of Medicine as the first thorough study of an Asiatic population looking at hyperglycemia and its relationship to diabetes mellitus. And because of that, I think I went to the National Heart Hospital in London. But I need to tell you one other story also here. So when I asked Dr. Datey for a reference, he gave me a very 3-line reference. He said, Dr. Nanda was working with me as senior registrar for 3 years, and he is hardworking, conscious. I recommend him. So now that's 2-line references. In those days, our references had to be at least a page or 2 pages. And Dr. Datey's reference was 3 lines. So I was very disappointed. I showed to Dr. Ivan J. Pinto, who was the assistant honorary. He was very, very friendly with me. And he said, my God, I can't believe it. We all kind of were very disappointed, kind of abusive, also some of them, for Dr. Datey. And Dr. Pinto wrote a 3-page reference for me. And then Dr. Asfi Gholwala, who was on the side, whom we just knew, he also said, "Why, this is too much. Let me give you a reference." So he gave another 2-3-page reference to me. Then I got selected, and I thanked Dr. Pinto and Dr. Gholwala. Just briefly thanked Dr. Datey, but knew that his reference was the worst one. And I must have got selected because of Dr. Pinto's and Dr. Datey and We had other attending, Dr. Madhu Deshmukh there, and I think I can't remember all the names, but some other attendings were there. So when I went to National Heart Hospital, the first thing they asked me was, "Oh, Dr. Datey recommended you. That's why we took you here." So it was very interesting because Dr. Datey was very well known to them, had been to National Heart Hospital even before me many years ago. So they knew him, and his 3-line reference is what got me, not the many pages references from other honoraries. I almost fainted there, but then I realized, and I think then I met Dr. Datey several times. I think at one point in time, Dr. Pinto called me when I was in India saying Dr. Datey is dying. He was in Bombay hospital had liver cancer. So I met him, and he was mentally very, very alert, although physically not good, but mentally very. And the first question he asked me, I hope while you're in university, you're still working hard and very conscientiously and doing research. And I said, yes. So even then, he was the same old Dr. Strict, Dr. Datey that I knew him a long time ago. Thank you very much.